Welcome to Mindful Reads. Today we journey into Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche, a bold critique of conventional morality, truth, and the modern mind. Nietzsche invites us to look beyond rigid categories, question accepted beliefs, and confront the deeper will behind our values. Let's explore the philosophy of one who dares to ask, what if everything we believe is just a shadow of something deeper? Friedrich Nietzsche was a 19th century German philosopher, poet, and cultural critic. Born in 1844, he challenged the foundations of Christianity, traditional morality, and modern rationalism. His writing is passionate, poetic, and uncompromising, designed not to comfort, but to awaken. Nietzsche believed that to live authentically, one must go beyond inherited norms and confront life with honesty, strength, and creative will. Beyond Good and Evil, published in 1886, expands Nietzsche's critique of morality. Instead of accepting good and evil as universal truths, he urges us to ask where these values come from and who benefits. The book explores power, truth, freedom, and the psychology of belief, calling for a new kind of philosopher, one who creates values instead of obeying them. Nietzsche begins by attacking the blind trust we place in philosophers. He claims they pretend to seek truth, but in reality they start with conclusions, then reason backward to justify them. They're not disinterested thinkers, but driven by hidden desires, pride, and instinct. He criticizes the idea of absolute truth, arguing that what we call truth is often just a set of illusions we've forgotten are illusions. Even logic, he suggests, is based on assumptions that may not hold outside human experience. The idea of the soul, or a pure inner self, is another fiction. Nietzsche sees this as a leftover from religious thought, an attempt to separate mind from body. He believes the body, instincts, and drives are fundamental to thought, not something separate from it. He mocks the belief in free will. What we call freedom is often ignorance of the true causes behind our actions. Our choices are shaped by deep instincts, cultural forces, and subconscious desires, not by some isolated self detached from nature. Nietzsche challenges the moral binary of good and evil. He believes it's a false opposition rooted in weakness and fear. Those in power define values to maintain control. True philosophers, he says, must move beyond such categories. Traditional philosophy, according to Nietzsche, masks a will to power, the drive to assert control and impose values. Even the pursuit of truth is a form of domination, often disguised as humble inquiry. Every philosopher is an artist of values. He warns that the most dangerous philosophers are not the skeptics, but the dogmatists, those who claim certainty. Their systems demand obedience, not questioning. Nietzsche calls for thinkers who embrace uncertainty and complexity. Nietzsche urges us to consider how deeply prejudice shapes philosophy. Philosophers may reject religion, but still cling to its moral assumptions. Even atheists often retain Christian values without realizing it. To truly go beyond, we must see this. He proposes that philosophy must become more psychological. We need to understand not just what people believe, but what hidden forces shape their thoughts. Philosophy then becomes a diagnosis of culture and character. In the end, Nietzsche demands a new kind of philosopher, not a passive seeker of truth, but a creator of values. One who questions deeply, lives boldly, and faces life as it is without illusions, without comfort, and beyond good and evil. Nietzsche describes the free spirit as someone who dares to question received beliefs, even at great personal cost. This thinker does not inherit truth. They wrestle with it, doubt it, and remake it. Freedom of thought begins with suspicion of what we're taught to revere. The journey to intellectual freedom is lonely and painful. The free spirit must break away from tradition, culture, and comfort. Nietzsche likens it to standing at the edge of a cold, vast sea, where nothing is certain, and every step is a risk. Free spirits are not rebels for rebellion's sake. Their doubt is purposeful. They seek to understand not just what is believed, but why. This deeper awareness leads to greater independence, but also greater burden. Nietzsche warns that freedom can become its own kind of prison if not balanced by discipline. True freedom isn't chaos, it's mastery of oneself. The free spirit must develop strength to carry the weight of their own values. He challenges the idea of objective morality. Free spirits understand that morals are human-made, born of power, fear, and custom. They do not obey blindly, they create their own ethical compass, grounded in clarity, not conformity. Nietzsche criticizes the complacency of modern thinkers who seek safety in popular opinion or borrowed wisdom. The free spirit walks a harder path, refusing to be seduced by comfort or trends. They are few, but vital. To be a free spirit is to unlearn obedience. It's to think beyond the categories of good and evil, right and wrong. Nietzsche urges thinkers to live with tension and contradiction, to be creative, not reactive. He emphasizes the importance of courage. Freedom of thought is not granted, it is taken, and it often brings conflict, misunderstanding, even isolation. Yet it also opens the door to deeper joy, clearer vision, and true individuality. Nietzsche speaks of the need for slow courage, the willingness to grow quietly, steadily, with patience. The free spirit does not shout, they endure. Their strength is not loud, but lasting. Ultimately, the free spirit is a pioneer of values. They prepare the ground for new ways of living and thinking. Their task is not to follow truth, but to dance with it, to shape it into something worthy of life. Nietzsche explores the soul of religious belief, not as divine truth, but as a human need. Religion, he says, is born from fear, longing, and a desire for meaning. It's not proof of God's, but of man's deep emotional hunger to feel guided, protected, and morally justified in a chaotic world. He sees religious instinct as noble in origin, but often corrupted. The early religious type, Nietzsche claims, was not a weak beggar, but a strong individual, someone who sought power over their inner self through ritual, discipline, and awe. It began as strength, not submission. Over time, religion shifted from self-overcoming to obedience. Priests began to shape values, preaching guilt and sin to control others. Nietzsche accuses them of poisoning joy, calling strength, pride, and natural desire evil, turning vitality into something shameful. He criticizes the priestly class for moral inversion, taking what is noble and labeling it sinful. Weakness became a virtue, and strength became a vice. This reversal, Nietzsche says, is the core of what he calls the slave morality that dominates modern religion. Faith, for Nietzsche, is not proof of truth, but a refusal to think. Believers cling to dogma not because it's reasonable, but because it's comforting. He warns that this passive faith dulls the mind and kills the creative, questioning spirit necessary for human growth. He acknowledges, however, that religion once offered structure and order. It gave people stories to live by and a sense of cosmic justice. But now those same stories have grown stale. The time has come, he says, for new values born not from fear, but from strength. Nietzsche does not want to destroy the religious instinct, he wants to transform it. Instead of worshiping gods, he urges people to become worthy of being worshipped themselves. His vision is not of faith, but of greatness, forged through inner power and self-becoming. He speaks of saints of knowledge, those who replace blind faith with insight. These are people who face the abyss of meaninglessness and create value anyway. They don't escape suffering, they embrace it and turn it into strength. Nietzsche contrasts passive belief with active reverence. The latter is spiritual discipline without superstition, a love of the sacred without clinging to old lies. This, he believes, is how humanity evolves spiritually without deception or self-denial. In the end, Nietzsche doesn't reject the soul's need for depth and wonder only the outdated forms it often takes. He calls for a new kind of spirituality, not a surrender to gods, but a commitment to becoming more than we are, a philosophy that blesses life, not denies it. In this section, Nietzsche shares sharp poetic aphorisms, quick jolts of insight rather than extended arguments. He touches on love, pride, knowledge, and morality with precision. These maxims are like mental landmines, short, but meant to explode deeper reflection. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. This quote warns that confronting evil can twist the soul. When we stare too long into chaos, it stares back. Nietzsche urges us to remain vigilant against becoming what we oppose. He says in individuals, insanity is rare. In groups, it is the rule. A warning against blind conformity. This maxim highlights how crowds, not individuals, often lose reason. Mob thinking, he suggests, leads to madness disguised as unity or morality. Nietzsche jabs at truth itself, saying people don't seek it, they seek comfort. Most beliefs are chosen not for accuracy but for safety. He implies that honesty is rare and painful, and that truth, when truly faced, is often dangerous to our illusions. He praises solitude as essential for greatness. Only away from the crowd can one think freely. Noise, praise, and social norms distract the soul from its highest path. The one who walks alone may suffer, but also has the clearest view. Love, too, is not spared. He claims people love not for others' sake, but for how others make them feel. Even the noblest feelings are tainted with self-interest. This isn't cynicism, he says, but a more honest look at human nature. Nietzsche distrusts those who speak most of morality. Often, he argues, their virtue is a mask and expression of weakness, envy, or resentment. He values strength that doesn't need to proclaim itself, and integrity that speaks in action, not preaching. Power, he claims, is not evil, it's life's natural expression. To grow, to strive, to assert, these are vital instincts. Suppressing them under moral guilt kills the soul. What matters is how power is used, with wisdom or with cruelty. He writes that all philosophy is confession. What we think is shaped by who we are, our instincts, wounds, and hopes. Objectivity is a myth. Even the highest thinkers carry hidden motives. To understand ideas, study the soul behind them. These maxims are not final truths, but provocations. Nietzsche doesn't hand us a worldview, he throws sparks into dry grass. His goal is to awaken, disturb, and challenge. In these short lines he offers not comfort, but the call to deeper, braver thought. Moral values are not absolute, they arise from shifting human instincts and power dynamics. What one group calls good, another may see as weakness. Morality is a battlefield of competing wills, where the dominant impose their values and label others as evil to maintain control. He contrasts two kinds of morality, master morality and slave morality. Master morality arises from strength, pride, and affirmation of life. Slave morality is born from weakness, resentment, and the need to condemn others to feel superior. The latter, he says, dominates modern society. In slave morality, what's good is what helps the weak: kindness, humility, obedience. But Nietzsche argues this is a clever reversal of values. It praises powerlessness and calls it virtue. True morality, in his eyes, must affirm strength, creativity, and self-overcoming. He says modern morality, especially Christian ethics, is rooted in guilt and resentment. It teaches us to be ashamed of power, desire, and pride. But for Nietzsche, these instincts are not evil. They are the very forces that make life vibrant and meaningful. Nietzsche explores how guilt evolved. It began as a social debt wrongdoing required repayment. Over time, it became internalized. People began to punish themselves inwardly, even when no one else did. This inner torment, he says, is what religion has fed on for centuries. He critiques asceticism, the ideal of denying pleasure and the body. To Nietzsche, this is a war against life itself. The ascetic ideal, he claims, is not noble, but born of exhaustion and fear. It turns suffering into virtue and weakness into holiness. Philosophers and priests, he says, have used morality as a tool to control others, justify power, or deal with their own weaknesses. He exposes how supposed truth-seekers often hide personal motives behind moral claims. Morality is rarely neutral. He insists we must go beyond good and evil, beyond simplistic categories. Life is too rich for such binary thinking. Real understanding requires nuance. What is considered evil in one era might be good in another. Perspective shapes values. Nietzsche's moral vision is not about rules, it's about flourishing. He wants individuals to create their own values, rooted in strength, awareness, and love for life. The future, he believes, belongs to those who rise above herd morality and shape their destiny. Nietzsche doesn't destroy morality, he dissects it. He seeks not chaos, but clarity. He urges us to examine where our values come from, and whether they serve life or suppress it. To live fully, we must dare to think and judge for ourselves. Most scholars don't seek truth, they seek comfort. They hide in systems, avoiding the risks of original thought. True philosophy requires danger, solitude, and the courage to stand apart from consensus. The academic mind values caution over creativity. It prefers clarity and stability, even if that means clinging to falsehoods. But truth often lives in ambiguity, in the unexplored and the uncomfortable. Modern scholars worship objectivity, but objectivity can be a mask for cowardice. The refusal to take a stand, to judge, or to affirm life's contradictions signals not neutrality, but fear. There's a deep divide between those who know and those who live. Scholars analyze life but rarely participate in its depths. Their detachment is sterile, lacking passion and instinct. Philosophy isn't a profession, it's a calling. Those who treat it like a job miss its transformative power. It demands a total reordering of one's values, not just technical skill. Genuine thinking is a bodily act as much as a mental one. Instinct, health, and even digestion affect our worldview. The whole person, not just the mind, is the philosopher. The scholar often seeks precision through categorization, but this can fragment truth. Truth isn't always logical. It's sometimes poetic, contradictory, or beyond words altogether. Knowledge is not valuable unless it affirms life. Abstract facts, disconnected from existence and meaning, become lifeless. Wisdom must nourish the soul, not just inform the intellect. Specialization narrows vision. Scholars become so focused on details that they miss the whole. True understanding comes from breadth, not confinement to one tiny corner of thought. A real thinker must be untimely out of sync with the present. To rise above mediocrity, one must risk being misunderstood, ridiculed, or ignored. That is the cost of truth. Virtues are often masks for deeper instincts. What society praises as good may stem from fear, weakness, or the need for control. Morality isn't always noble, it can be a tool for self-deception. Many cultivate kindness not from strength, but from inability to harm. Their gentleness is not a choice, but a limitation. True virtue requires the capacity for its opposite. Humility is often a veiled demand for equality by those unable to rise. It disguises resentment as moral superiority, demanding others lower themselves rather than striving higher. Pity is praised, yet it weakens both giver and receiver. It reinforces suffering rather than transcending it. Elevation requires a different stance, one rooted in strength and vision, not indulgence. Virtue should be an expression of overflowing vitality, not obedience. When driven by inner abundance, it radiates authenticity. When based on rules, it becomes lifeless and rigid. A person's virtues often reflect their history and position. What's noble in one may be manipulative in another. Judging others by a fixed moral code ignores the uniqueness of their path. We praise justice, but often confuse it with revenge or conformity. Justice requires courage, clarity, and the will to go beyond herd instincts. Few truly embody it. Modesty can be an armor for mediocrity. Those with something great to offer don't always shrink back. Modesty should not mean dimming one's light to ease the discomfort of others. Courage, when real, is raw and unpredictable. It resists formulas or expectations. It doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it's silent endurance, sometimes fierce rebellion. True virtue is dangerous. It disrupts norms, threatens comfort, and resists categorization. It cannot be mass-produced or legislated. It is rare, radical, and often misunderstood. Cultures and nations shape morality as much as individuals do. Values emerge not from universal reason, but from the character and history of peoples. What one society calls virtuous, another may reject outright. The idea of a fatherland is tied to shared myths, language, and customs. It creates belonging, but also limits thinking. Loyalty to one's nation can foster greatness or blind obedience, and hostility to others. National pride often masks deeper insecurities. It can unify or divide, inspire courage or fuel hatred. True strength lies in embracing one's heritage without losing openness to the world. Nietzsche warns against nationalism rooted in fear or resentment. Such narrow-mindedness hardens hearts and minds, stifling creativity and growth. Healthy patriotism celebrates life and culture without exclusion. He critiques the idea of racial purity or superiority. Bloodlines are often romanticized myths, masking the complex reality of human mixing and change. Identity is fluid, not fixed by birth. Peoples carry collective memories and instincts that influence their morals. These inherited traits shape laws, customs, and arts. Yet they are not destiny individuals can transcend or transform them. Globalization challenges traditional loyalties. It offers new opportunities, but also threatens to erase unique identities. The tension between local and universal values is a defining conflict of modernity. Nietzsche encourages embracing cultural diversity as a source of strength and vitality. Cross-pollination of ideas and traditions can spark renewal and creativity. True belonging comes not from conformity, but from self-overcoming. Individuals who rise above herd mentality enrich their cultures and help create a more dynamic society. In the end, loyalty to peoples and fatherlands must serve life's flourishing, not fear, hatred, or stagnation. It demands courage, wisdom, and openness to the ever-changing world. Nobility is not about birth or wealth. It is about spirit and strength. The noble soul creates its own values, standing apart from the herd. Nobility demands courage to face harsh truths and live authentically, beyond comfort and convention. The noble individual embraces struggle and hardship as necessary for growth. Weakness and ease breed stagnation. True greatness arises through overcoming obstacles and mastering oneself. Nobility requires self-mastery, control over desires and impulses without repression. It is a harmony of strength and freedom, where power is wielded with wisdom, not cruelty. Pride is a vital trait for the noble soul, but it is different from vanity. It is grounded in real achievement and self-respect, not empty boasting or arrogance. The noble person is generous not out of obligation, but from abundance. Giving flows naturally, reflecting inner wealth rather than scarcity or duty. Nobility values truth even when it is uncomfortable or unpopular. It refuses deception, preferring harsh reality over comforting lies. Creativity and originality are marks of nobility. The noble soul is an artist of life, constantly shaping and reshaping values to fit their unique vision. Such individuals are rare because nobility demands sacrifice and risk. Most prefer safety and conformity, avoiding the challenges true greatness entails. The noble life is a continual becoming, not a fixed state. It is a dynamic process of self-overcoming, growth, and renewal, demanding constant vigilance and courage. Ultimately, nobility is a call to transcend mediocrity, to live boldly, think freely, and affirm life in all its complexity and contradiction. Rising above the world, the spirit finds solitude and clarity. In the high mountains, far from the noise of crowds, one glimpses the eternal, the vastness beyond fleeting values and petty disputes. The soul dances on the edge of the abyss, embracing both terror and freedom. Here, life's contradictions are not threats, but vital energies to be welcomed and transformed. The aftersong is a hymn to becoming unceasing change and growth. Nothing is fixed, all flows. The spirit must learn to move with the currents, fearless and fluid. Old gods and old morals fall away like shadows at dawn. What remains is raw existence, shining with a fierce light that both blinds and reveals. In this solitude, the self is not lonely but profoundly alive. It hears the call of the future, a song of creation and endless possibility. The mountain air sharpens thought and will. Clarity emerges not from comfort, but from confrontation with the unknown and the sublime. The after-song invites us to be architects of meaning, to build lives that honor change, complexity, and the deep joy of struggle. It calls for courage to break free from chains of tradition, to forge new paths where none existed before, guided by inner strength. This final reflection is both an ending and a beginning, a farewell to old certainties and a welcome to the wild adventure of becoming. May we all learn to sing our aftersong bold, honest, and free, dancing eternally on the heights beyond good and evil. Thank you for joining this deep exploration of beyond good and evil. We've journeyed beyond fixed morals into a world of courage, creativity, and self-overcoming. May these challenging ideas inspire you to question, grow, and embrace life's complexity. Remember, true freedom comes from creating your own values and living boldly. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking wisdom beyond the surface.